Hey guys, yo, what is up? And welcome to another Jump Inside podcast. What a month it's been. We've had so much good stuff happening this month from Xbox game showcases and all of that. But this is the end of the month podcast, and we're going to be talking about mythical creatures in video games. So basically anything that's open world, RPG, fantasy based, creatures from those types of things, from unicorns into dragons all the way to giants and goblins, all that type of stuff. You know, if they're in a video game and they're mythical creatures, then that's absolutely fine. We'll be bringing these things into conversation. We'll also be discussing some of our favorites and some of the games that we'll also be bringing along as well. So just a recap on exactly what we're allowed to bring here. If it exists in real life, it's like if it's a horse, then absolutely not. We're not allowed to bring those things. If it's a human, we're not allowed to bring humans, but we are allowed to bring things from like owls to dragons to unicorns, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that makes more sense. I brought along with me, as you already know, Blue Fox.
Hello. Glad to be here.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Cool. Congratulations to you, because you've just got to 1,000 subscribers, which is the YouTube threshold, as most people will know. So you're in a you've got the extra 0 on your badge.
I do. I'm quite happy, quite humbled for reaching this goal. It could have not happened without the support of everybody who helped me, including you two guys that gave me suggestions for various videos, also in podcasts themselves. And yes, I'm very honored, and I will keep doing new videos like I always did.
And just to have a recap, how long has that actually taken you, just so people get a realistic idea of how long it takes for people to grow onto YouTube?
It took far too long.
Far too long.
It took a couple of years. I did a total of 84 videos scattered around the past years. There was a whole pandemic that happened in the middle, but let's say 84 videos. That's the number of videos I've made to reach this goal.
Okay, that sounds cool. And of course, we also have Kamazoid in chat as well, who's been joining us.
Hey, it's truly great to be back in the podcast.
Kamazoid, if I'm correct, you've been quite excited recently, haven't you? Because there's a DLC that's come out.
Of course, the new Elden Ring DLC has just dropped, and currently I am playing it and streaming it daily until the day either it beats me or I beat it. The answer to that question, I truly don't know yet.
We were just talking before the actual stream recording started, and Kamazoid was like, "Yeah, I'm in a relationship with Elden Ring." It's just brilliant. So yeah, that's an absolutely lovely, beautiful DLC. And I'm sure that will probably get mentioned at some point in this stream. But without no further ado, we'll get down to this full-on stream, and we'll just talk about some of the games that you brought along. So I brought along Dragon Age because I absolutely love Dragon Age, and I'm currently playing Dragon Age Origins on my stream. Blue Fox, what games have you brought along?
I've brought the Legend of Zelda, the franchise as a whole, that has, of course, the human, the Hylia, as they're called in the Zelda universe. But it has 4 main species of humanoid creatures that are the Zora, the Rito, the Goron, and the Gerudo, which all have interesting characteristics and interesting world building across the 30 years plus universe of the Zelda franchise. And maybe I'll refer to the most recent games of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, because people are more familiar with these games than Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker, but I'll try to bring as many games as the franchise as possible. And of course, also for the most wild creatures, Far Cry Blood Dragon, which has dragons, as the name suggests.
Yep.
And the Pokemon franchise, which, yes, of course, has the Pokemon creatures.
I was going to say, I didn't know that Far Cry had dragons in it. I completely forgot about that, so that's going to be quite interesting to talk about. Then moving on to Kamazoid. Kamazoid, do you want to say what games you've brought along?
For this podcast episode, I'm bringing in 3 types of games. Of course, I'm bringing in Bloodborne, the FromSoft game for, I would say, unrealistic mythical creatures, definitely inspired by aliens, but their design is creepy and unique, and we're probably going to be talking about something like that. Also, bringing in Dark Souls 3 for its dragons. It's very known for one of its greatest dragon design. As we all know, dragons are mythical creatures. And finally, a nostalgic game from the PS2 days, Castlevania Curse of Darkness, for its unique, lovable, friendly mythical creatures that you, as the character you play with, you create as you progress into your journey.
Okay, sounds very good. Right, okay, we've got some questions that we're going to break down for you. We've got 10 in total, so I'll start with the first question, which is, what elements make a mythical creature memorable in a video game? Blue Fox, I'm going to start off with you. Which creature or what mythical creature do you want to do, and how and why?
Well, I believe that the element that makes a creature in video games more appealing and memorable for all players is the legacy and the lore these creatures have within the lore of the game, right? Because we've seen a lot of different interpretations of dragons, of unicorns, of elves, of whatever in various games, but only the games that really give them a story, that really give them a role within the game, are the ones that we remember. So, for instance, in my case, I brought specifically the Gerudo, which is a desert tribe that we see in most games. I suppose that there is one in The Witcher, there is one in the Dragon Age, there is one in virtually all RPGs, a desert inspired tribe. But the reason why the Gerudo are so known and beloved for the video game enthusiasts like ourselves is because they are quite unique within the gaming space. There are a tribe that is only composed by women, that are women warriors, and they bring quite a strong contrast to our expectations. We always think of the tribe are all mainly or very tribal and whatnot, but no, this is quite advanced and can only all bring women. So you see these 2-meter tall women with swords and shields and whatnot, and it's quite it's quite a shock the first time you encounter them in Ocarina of Time. And then they are recurring in, of course, most Zelda games. And in the most recent one, second to recent one, the Breath of the Wild, it's funny because since the village is only composed by women, you can only enter if you're a woman. So Link has to disguise himself as a woman to enter. So it's quite an amusing thing that it's stuck to gamers who have played the game. So yes, I believe that going back to the question, what makes a creature memorable in gaming, I think it's the lore and the role they have within the franchise.
Yeah, I was gonna go off a bit of a question off that, because I also think like there's the legacy is a word that you mentioned there, and I like the fact of in Dragon Age, when I think of some of the more creatures that are rememberable, I always quite think that they're the unique ones. They're the ones that there's only like one of their creatures that have been given names, and there's only one of them, which makes it like, oh yeah, I remember battling that, because it's one of the battles that you remember. When you're fighting like an army of bad guys, you don't really remember everything from that, because it's like, okay, that's just everything that's normal about every other game. You'll always battle an army of creatures, but like if you want to make a certain creature memorable, it's going to be like a big old boss battle, and it's going to be like the one singular thing inside that, and and that's what you remember from that. Camzoid, what's your take on that? What would make a memorable mythical creature in the games that you play?
I'll be carrying on from both of your answers. I absolutely agree with what Blue Fox said. The most memorable about mythical creatures in video games is, of course, their lore. There's also their design, the way they look, how they act and stuff. But I do think there's also another element, the player experience with this creature. For example, a creature who allies with the character you play with. The experience with him as your teammate, or the battle you have with this mythical creature. For example, in one of the games that I mentioned, Dark Souls 3, the mythical creature dragon Midir, the Dark Eater. The reason why he is so beloved and so memorable in the gaming community is basically because of his boss fight. He's very memorable for his unique and difficult boss fight. The challenge in how you defeat this dragon, he is basically the first dragon where if you hit him in the legs or in the tail, it does little damage. So you have to basically hit him in the head to do some decent damage. And the experience while fighting him is always memorable because of his attacks, because of his the attacks he uses like dark magic as well as his fire magic. His fire breath and his dark breath are always very memorable, an ultimate attack that literally one-shots any player. So I believe another element that makes mythical creatures very memorable in video games, also the experience the player has with them, whether through the fight he has with them or the partnership he has with this creature.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I'm remembering Skyrim in that segment as you're talking there, because I remember like when you battle Alduin, you don't just battle Alduin with a sword and all that kind of stuff. You have to use your shouts to actually bring him in, and then there's that point where it's like the 4 legends of Dragonborns are all shouting to get rid of the clouds. So Alduin comes down, and then you can actually properly have a fight against him. I'm not going to say too much, otherwise that leads into spoilers, but in that horror realm, there's that situation of like, yeah, there's a uniqueness in the battle itself. There's a way to do it, if you do it a certain way, obviously there's there's a uniqueness in the battle. If you hit him in a certain place, it might not affect him, where if you do a certain thing, it might affect him even more, so you have to do a particular certain thing to actually take him down. Makes sense. I love both of those answers. So I'm now going to move on to the next question. In the game that you provided, and I'm going to start with Camazoid this time. In the game you provided, which mythical creature stands out to you the most and why?
I'm bringing back the mythical creature that I answered with for the first question. I'm going to be talking about the dragon from Dark Souls 3, Midir, the Dark Eater. The reason why I always remember him and consider him, I even said this in one of my streams, I consider him as one of the best dragons ever created, basically because of his incredible design and lore. His lore is he's one of the dragons. Ever since he was born, he was destined to protect this golden light city from the abyss. And throughout the years he fought the abyss, he's been consumed by darkness and consumed by the abyss. So he lost his soul, he lost himself, and became an absolute monster and beast, and took out the city that took care of him, and all the people took care of him became a threat to them. So you, the player, you are tasked to defeat this monster and of course save him from this bad destiny that he's having and save him from the abyss itself. His lore is very unique and very simple to understand. Plus, his boss fight is one of the most memorable boss fights. He's very aggressive against the player. His attacks are heavy and very hard to dodge. Plus, the way you meet this dragon is very unique. As you progress forward within this area called the Ring City, as you traverse this bridge, he flies in and let's say hit you with his fire breath to knock you off the bridge. And then as you dodge that fire, then he drops in the bridge and you duel him there. If you beat him, he falls down the bridge, and then you progress forward. And as you progress forward, then you find a hull. And when you drop this hull, you find Midir in a battle where you have to defeat him in order to save him from his bad omen, in order to save him from the abyss. And the beauty of this boss fight, the more you fight this poor mythical creature, the more he loses his sanity. He loses himself, and he falls more into the abyss. He goes from using the dragon's unique abilities, which is fire breath, and all to using dark magic and relying more about the magic given to him by the abyss. So he's losing his mind the more you fight him, and when you beat him, he's basically his soul is free, and he returns to being himself. So that's why I always remember his boss fight for being way too difficult and for given his lore more meaning to it, making it very, very memorable for me.
Okay, wow. As you were just saying there, I was just thinking of like some of the stuff that I've battled in certain games that are quite mythical creatures and quite high up there. I'm probably going to mention another dragon here. I remember playing Skyrim for so long, and then that was my idea of a dragon, because like that's what I pictured a dragon to be like. And then I played a game, The Witcher 2, and I remember seeing like the dragon right at the beginning of that game, and I was like, okay, Skyrim had it all wrong. Skyrim's dragons have got nothing on this creature, and just to think about how many video games have certain dragons and how they build them or not. That, you know, I feel like I've played video games with dragons in, but some of those dragons have been some of the weaker dragons in video games, because like I think one of my favorite type of games with that I remember with dragons in is Inquisitions. I think Inquisitions have definitely got some of the best dragons in for me, but as a whole, when it comes to most memorable video game mythical creatures, if it isn't dragons, I have to go with, because I'm not, it's like I'm this is where I have to strand a little bit into kind of like, I don't know, what's the game, Half-Life 2. They've got those creatures, those alien creatures in Half-Life 2. I don't know if they would count. I think they count as mythical creatures because they don't exist. I think they do. I mean,
there are,
if you know what I mean. I like the fact they can just walk up to you and go, yes, heal, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. I think they count. I think they're in the same line as elves and stuff like that. But yeah, there's quite a lot of mythical creatures, and yeah, I think more the dragons are going to be more rememberable because they're big, they're large, they're generally trying to kill you most of the time. So yes, yeah, I think the dragon in The Witcher 2 was possibly my favorite. Blue Fox, on your end, what's your favorite mythical creature?
Well, in this regard, I would say that there are plenty, of course, but I do have to bring the Pokemon franchise because it was the first video game series that, of course, is based on creatures, the pocket monsters, and the legendary Pokemons were the ones that really, catch your attention. So I remember playing as a small child Pokemon Emerald and see Rayquaza. That's the big green dragon from the Pokemon series, the legendary Pokemon, and be amazed by it because it's so powerful. You've seen it in the cartoons, you've seen it in the other games. It's quite an emotion when you first face it and potentially catch it. It's same goes for Dialga and Palkia from the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, or Zekrom and Reshiram from Pokemon Black and White, and every legendary Pokemon you've seen in most Pokemon games. It's quite extraordinary to have this experience where for most of the game you're catching, small dogs, small cats, and evolving them into big dogs and big cats, and then suddenly you're facing like a demigod. And like, yeah, it seems like a big challenge, and it is, but for newcomers especially. But then once you have experience, you see them as like, oh, shoot, I can catch them, I can put them on my team. They are quite, I can turn their power in my favor. Quite an exciting. I would choose, legendary Pokemons from most Pokemon titles.
You know what I like when it comes to Pokemon, and I'm my own biggest fan of Pokemon. Do you remember those in Orange Island, the movie in series 3? I don't know if you've watched the Pokemon movies. I'm not, because I'm just gonna span off video games just a tad.
Been a while, but yeah.
There's 3 birds that represent. So I think one of them is electric.
Yeah, Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno.
Those 3. Those 3 are my favorite of all the Pokemons. They are portrayed so well. They are the balance of the Pokemon stuff, and I think those creatures they're just some of the more legendary Pokemons that I absolutely love, and and they are.
Yeah, well, one thing about Pokemon design that I really adore about the legendaries is that they don't always look big and buff and powerful. Some of them look elegant, look mystical, right? They give a sense of peace and harmony, but also power, like the power of nature. That nature can be peaceful, but can also be strong, right? You can have breezes and you can have hurricanes.
Absolutely.
So in the Pokemon universe, you have this symbiosis between the everyday Pokemon and the big legendary Pokemon that will truly shake up the world. And yes, there is of course the whole lore behind, going back to the previous point I've made, that the more lore and the more importance you give to creatures in video games, and the more they're gonna be remembered. And in this regard, I think Pokemon does it quite well, since creatures are all key of the franchise. And yes, so it's quite exciting to face new legendaries in each game.
Just before I move on, which was the Pokemon that actually takes those 3 birds down? What do you remember what that one's called?
Lugia.
Was it? Sorry.
Lugia.
Lugia is the
Lugia.
cutest and most powerful Pokemon I love. Okay, that's just me done. Okay, right. Moving on to the next question. Okay. I will go with Blue Fox for this one. How overpowered should a mythical creature be within a monster boss battle?
Well, I think Camisod will agree with my statement, but a lot. I mean, they cannot be weak, right? It's if you're facing off a demigod, you gotta have a challenge in front of you. So, for instance, for this specific question, I would bring a Far Cry Blood Dragon into the mix, because it's a game where there are dragons, but not like the Charizard-looking dragon, more like of the big lizards, kind of Godzilla-like dragons, if you know what I mean. And in that game, you start off running away from these big dragons, and because you just simply cannot defeat them. And if anything, you use them to lure them into the enemy bases so they can defeat enemies for you. But then the more you progress through the game, and the more they become defeatable, and it's quite a satisfaction to defeat them. It's and the game itself doesn't last that long. It's like 5-6 hour adventure. It's a DLC, but it's a spin-off from Far Cry 3. So it's quite nice to start the game off being like a nobody that cannot face these dragons because they're quite strong, to potentially control them and potentially defeat them 5 hours later. So yes, I think going back to the question, the creatures have to be strong. They have to give a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do I put my next question? For me, I like rounds. I remember there is a dragon boss battle in I think there's only one proper dragon boss battle in Dragon Age 2, I think. And I remember the fact that you have the momentum of the battle changes. Like, you will attack him and you'll find the weakness, and you'll be able to attack him so far, so long, doing a certain strategy, and then eventually he'll fly up in the air, go somewhere else, and then you'll have to think of a whole entire new strategy to do the next part of the battle. I like the rounds in it, and Camisoid, your end. What about you? How?
Taking the answering this question from a different approach of let's say the approach of you playing as these mythical creatures. I want to talk about this example of I know you guys are probably classic gamers, so I hope you do remember this game. But back in the day, do you guys remember any of the Godzilla games? These Godzilla games are basically you play with giant mythical creatures, and the beauty of it is that each mythical creature is of course different in terms of design, in terms of lore, and of course in terms of gameplay, making each one powerful and unique. Of course, you have Godzilla, you have Mechagodzilla, you have Mothra, and you have other many creatures. And what's so great about these mythical creatures is that each one possesses his own unique abilities, and each one is strong, can be stronger than others. And of course, there are even though each creature is, of course, strong, there are some mythical big creatures that are very much stronger than others. Take, for example, Godzilla himself, the man himself. He is, as you play with him, you find out that he is very strong. He's very strong than this other creature, Mothra, who is basically a giant butterfly. And in terms of when you think about it, it makes sense that Godzilla is a giant godlike monster who shoots a fiery laser breath, and who's also strong, whose body is literally kind of like steel. And Mothra is basically a giant butterfly who puts enemies to sleep and anything. So when you put these guys in a battle, of course you think that Godzilla is going to win. Even though Mothra, a giant butterfly who can fly away and paralyze Godzilla, we're talking about Godzilla here. So I feel like the beauty within this mythical creatures battle game is that you find that these monsters are balanced and yet unbalanced. And what I mean by unbalanced, there are creatures that are more powerful than specific ones, but there are these ones that are less powerful have their own advantages. Like, for example, Mothra being a butterfly who can fly, she can keep her distance. She can basically fly away if she finds it, if she feels in danger and stuff. So there's also balance in these giant mythical creatures, as well as imbalance when you put in two creatures that have specific unique abilities to each other.
So, what game was that, by the way? The Mothra game?
It's the Godzilla games. I don't know if you guys ever played any Godzilla game, like for example Godzilla Save the Earth or Godzilla Unleashed. It's basically I don't know if you guys are a fan of the Godzilla MonsterVerse.
I am, yeah.
This game, classic game from the PS2 era, is basically a monster battle royale. You can play as Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Mothra, all in a single city, and you just battle it out.
That sounds epic.
Sounds fun.
They need to
bring a classic game.
They need to bring out a Titan game or something at some point again, like in modern era, because I wanna see like a full-on Titan attack Titan situation. I know we've got it somewhere. I just we need a game that really focuses on that. I'd like to see that in one of the new updated stuff. All right, okay. Here's a question I'm quite interested in. No, was there something? I just can't remember. Oh, was there something I was thinking? No, I'm all good. Okay. Okay. This Camazoid, this one's for you. Okay, you ready for it?
All right.
How big should dragons be in mythical video games? I feel like you're the expert for this question.
Okay, here I don't know, but in terms of how big, I don't know how to exactly answer this question, because when you see a giant dragon, in terms of size, it sounds interesting, and it pushes the player to discover that. I do remember having my one experience in Dark Souls 2 against like a godlike being dragon who was ginormous, and the only thought that came to my mind is wanting to fight him, but the only thing that you do with him is you only interact, so you don't get to fight him. But the way he sits and the way he talks was very intimidating, and of course the most thing that was interesting and intimidating into this dragon was his size. But dragons don't have to be big to be interesting. Even a small little dragon can still be interesting and unique, because that's in terms what makes mythical creatures and what makes dragons very interesting to discover, to fight, to learn about them through lore is their design. Their design is a major factor, and I think it's a more better factor than their size, because their size does matter. Dragons should be giant, should be big, but I believe I don't have examples in my mind, but I believe that you can also design dragons that are small and unique, So I don't think size should matter, but I do want to say that big dragons, giant dragons, are very intimidating and very interesting to discover, and of course to fight.
It's like I think one of the biggest games for dragons was I think I saw like Dragon's Dogma is probably like one of the more bigger dragons in video games, at least as far as I can remember. And I was watching the trailer for it, and I was like, "Yep, nope, not playing that. Nope, I'll give that a few years before I'm interested." When I first saw that trailer, so I don't know. Blue Fox, I'm going to twist this a little bit on your question. What is the biggest creature that you've battled or had on your side in a video game?
That's a bit of a tricky question, or at least one that I on top of my head doesn't an answer doesn't come to mind. I would say that well, going back to the dragons, helping out Camisoid here, the dragons in Far Cry Blood Dragon are quite fairly small. They're intimidating. They're still, I mean, of course, not bigger than humans, but they're not that big. I mean, it's hard to see them from afar. You really have to get up close to fight them off. So it's a nice twist in comparison to big dragons like in other franchises like in Skyrim. But the biggest creature I've faced in a video game, I've played the Prey of the Gods, which is the knockoff version of Shadow of the Colossus. I didn't finish the game. I played a little bit of it. But yeah, in that game you have these colossal size enemies that are quite interesting to fight. And yeah, for the people who have played the Shadow of the Colossus, which does include myself, I have not played it, but yeah, that game is famous to have these colossals that you really gotta face.
Highly encourage that you play it, bro. It's an incredible game.
You did play it? Then you know, then you can explain it. You can experience it and explain it.
I did try it out. I haven't fully finished it. I remember I bought it through a PSN Plus, but then the month ran out. Anyway, I remember trying it out a little, and of course the premise of the game is you have to defeat these colossal enemies in order to unlock something specific. I don't remember exactly, but each colossal is different than the other, and each one has unique ways to climb up to them, because the way you defeat these colossals is you have to climb up to within them and find their weak points and hit them as much as you can in order to drive off their health bar. And the beauty with Shadow of Colossus is, of course, each colossal being different than the other. I remember there's a worm colossal in the desert. There's also a giant bird. There's a giant colossal orc, something like that. And the last monster being a very big, gigantic monster who. I remember there's like some mountains attached to him, so you have to climb through a lot of spots in order to reach each of his weak points. I remember there's also a giant boar. You have to hit him in his head. So each colossal is very different, even in terms of the way you fight him, the way you reach his weak points, and that's all I remember from the game. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to think if there's anything massive that I've ever fought inside a video game that's like quite big. The only thing that I can possibly even imagine that even comes close to a mythical creature, and I don't think this one counts. I remember like the size of driving into. You drive into like a dead Reaper in Mass Effect 3 or something. And it's quite like, oh, okay, right, this is big and massive, and that's the size of it. Because like just Mass Effect likes doing things that I think BioWare likes doing things that are just massive, but that particular one thing was quite big. However, I don't know if that counts as Alien and less mythical, but anyway. Right, gonna move on to the next question. Should creatures in video games have lore and backgrounds to their story? I'm going with Blue Fox for this one.
Well, yes. I mean, I kind of already answered this question in the previous question, so I will not extend it too much. But yes, I believe it's quite important because it gives the creatures a memorability. It gives the creatures a soul that sticks to the player, and the player can recognize, oh yeah, this is the creature I befriended to complete a quest, or this is a creature I defeated to press it, right? So it's the more the better. Of course, not every single creature in every single video game has to have lore and story. There have to be base enemies that you kind of have to defeat on the tutorial. Yeah, you will not face other times. So for instance, in the Fallout franchise, they are the cockroaches that are big due to the radiation. Yeah, they don't have much lore. They're because they're cockroaches who survived the atomic bombs. Period. There is not much more. There is a quest Fallout 3 of a weirdo that befriends the cockroaches, but yeah, apart from that, again, it's there are amazing video games that don't need it. But the most memorable ones are the ones that do have it.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with you on that. Like, when it comes to like games like Fallout, I'm like, you don't really need to explain that a super mutant is a human that just went it was just experimented on and everything just messed up in that whole situation. Whereas, as for example, in things like The Witcher or things like Skyrim, I don't know, yeah, like you get like codexes and beastries and all that kind of things. I don't know if Skyrim has one. I can't recall if Skyrim actually has a thing that explains what creatures are. I like to think it does. I know games like Dragon Age has it, and The Witcher has it, which I love those games absolutely. But I don't know if Skyrim's got one. I think they kind of like have to explain it, but yeah, that's just.
I'm not too sure. I think it doesn't.
I don't think it does. I don't know. Skyrim doesn't have a codec for creatures.
Or at least not the first version. Maybe the updated one does, but the base game.
Perhaps they did it kind of. Maybe I haven't played Skyrim, so I exactly don't know. But maybe they did it in the same way as like the FromSoft way. You learn more about these creatures through let's say descriptions of their abilities, descriptions of within the weapons you create through the skin of these monsters and something like that. Because that's the way how it's done through these the Elden Ring or Dark Souls game.
I like the
maybe.
I like it in The Witcher 2, where the way you learn and you get more information about creatures is the more you battle them. So if you battle them, you learn like more how to perfect your damage on the creatures. So if you defeat so many of them, eventually they get easier and easier to defeat. So like right at the beginning, you can take on maybe one or two of them, and then eventually you can take on like 4 or 6 of them in like the later periods of your 10th battle or something. But yeah, right, moving on to the next one. Should creatures be based on mythology, or can they be completely made up? What makes a better creature, for example, like a creature that's been written down from like, I don't know, from like what we know as some like from actual mythology creatures, or if they like, or can you just randomly design them how you want them? Blue Fox.
Well, it's both are correct in the sense of yes, there are some creatures who are clearly inspired by our own mythology, our own it's folklore, or just based on previous novels that have been already written. So if I find an elf in a video game, I'm not gonna be like, haha, but I already seen an elf in another story. All the way back in the folklore England of 11th century, they talked about the elves. I mean, yeah, of course, but it's not bad that they're also in video game. It's not bad to learn and to readapt monsters from our own world. In fact, I believe that there are many stories and many myths that we have not touched much. I mean, we always focus on the medieval folklore. We always focus on like the Greek mythology, or like at most like Indian American, like the Apache, or the spirit of the wild or whatever. But yeah, there are gazillions of myths from India, from China, from Africa, from America, that really have some cool monsters that would be amazing to see in video games. So if anything, we should take also more. But on the other hand, some video games developers just like to make up stuff out of the blue. It's no explanation needed. I mean, in Pokemon, you have more than 1,000 creatures, and some of them are just like, oh yes, we put together these elements from these animals, give it these elements, and off we go. We got Pikachu. Like, yeah, it's not based on mythology. It's just a rat that can conduct electricity. It's and it's fun, right? It's also fun to have some creatures that come out of the blue. That's how you make new mythology, if anything. So yes, I believe that both are correct. both are viable.
I will move over to Camazoid. Camazoid, what's your opinion on this?
I highly agree with what Blue Fox said, but I also think that I always believe that creatures that have been like, let's say, new creatures that are created for specific video games, I always believe that they are inspired by something. Let's say their abilities is inspired by abilities that a certain character in a different media use, or these characters that are created are inspired by creatures from a book. Like for example, Bloodborne has unique creatures called the Great Ones, who have like godlike abilities and also look very horribly, look disgusting. But these ones, I believe, they are inspired by a novel, a dark fantasy novel. So I believe that whether they are new creatures or creatures inspired from mythology itself, there will always be something that an inspiration from, whether it's mythology, whether it's simple entertainment media. There's always that one inspiration that lead into the creation of these creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I'm going to move it on to one more question, and then I'm going to see if I can play a bit of a game with you guys, if that's all right. I've got something interestingly prepared as you were saying that. Right, okay. I'm going to start with Camazoid for this one. Camazoid, what type of mythical creatures could you play, or could you have as a companion? So if you were like going through a thing, like what type of creatures would you like have as your own companions as you explore the video game?
Well, to be honest here, I haven't played a lot of video games where you have mythical creatures or creatures as companions, but I do have one in mind that I always remember. I remember God of War 2, and one of the well, as you progress in the story, there's a part where you get introduced to a companion, which is a Pegasus. I think kind of like basically a horse with wings that flies. Pegasus is very known in the Greek mythology. So you ride through this Pegasus, and he flies you to the area where you need to go. And as you're riding on him, enemies are trying to drop you off this horse. So you either use your bow to shoot them down, or of course you hit them with the blades of chaos, which are the weapons that Kratos use. There's also the ability where he can dash forward to take down enemies, or he can rush them on left or right to hit enemies. So I always liked how the Pegasus worked as your companion in God of War 2, and I always love and enjoy that portion. I don't have any ideas about other games. I don't remember. I remembered. I do remember not Dark Souls 2. Yes, Castlevania Curse of Darkness. In this game, it focuses so much on companion. Basically, you play as a Devil Forge Master. The Devil Forge Master and the lore of Castlevania has the ability to create creatures. And throughout this game, you play as a character who is trying to get back all his powers in order to face off against an enemy and have his revenge. So as you progress further and further into the story, you found new layers where you get to create your companions. Companions range from allies that help you traverse areas, allies that help you replenish your health. Like for example, your first companion is basically an elf that her one objective is to always heal you, and as you level up, and of course you level up this creature, the healing effect increases. Let's say at first it only replenishes 25% of your health. The stronger it gets, the stronger the ability of healing. And of course, as you progress forward within the game, you start creating more and more mythical creatures. Like for example, I believe like an orc, who this companion is different from the elf because he his only focus is of course fighting with you. He battles the enemies against you. He also has specific abilities, a giant roar that backs off all enemies and does great damage. He also has another ability to turn into a ball and attack enemies surrounding you. And this companion of yours is all about strength and defense. There's also a block ability where he creates the shield around you, so you'll be able to use items to heal and, of course, get back in the fight. And as you battle more and more enemies, your companion strengthens. And of course, you find new companions. I believe the third companion was like a bird. He starts off as a small bird that help you reach areas where you can't jump to it. And the further and further you strengthen this companion, it turns from a bird all the way to a dragon. It starts shooting fire. It starts dropping some sort of bombs. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's just one of his abilities. And there's of course the next companion is a wizard, a small wizard that has the ability to stop time to help you reach certain areas. And of course, as you strengthen this companion of yours, of course there's also some sort of a relationship mechanic that makes these companions like you as their friend. You become more friendly with these companions, and of course they help you out in very challenging battles. So these companions are very memorable for me, not because of course they help me in very difficult battles, but because of their mechanics and their looks and the way they work, as their objective is to protect their master and to help their master throughout the certain areas. So yeah, there are some creatures that I do remember because of their looks and because of the way they work.
What game is that again? The one with the bird and the dragon?
It's called Castlevania Curse of Darkness. It's a PS2 game.
Wow. Right, okay. Same question to Blue Fox.
Well, I guess for me it's easier to answer this question because one of the games I've brought was Pokemon. So, well, it's kind of self-explanatory. But yes, it is also the gimmick that made the franchise so famous. The fact that you not only fight creatures, but you also can find them and catch them and complete the adventure with them. And you can choose which one you can catch, which are, again, it's not granted, because in some games like let's say Fallout, you can have as a companion a super mutant or a dog or a mutated doll or a ghoul or also of course other humans, but they are scripted. There is a certain amount of people that can become your companion, and those companions become your companions as soon as you complete a specific quest. In Pokemon, you can catch whatever creature you like the most. You can even catch fewer than you need. In theory, you can have up to 6 in a team, but nobody's stopping you to only have 1. So it's quite extraordinary because it gives the power of creating your own party based on the creatures that you are fighting, which again, quite a unique concept. That's why it made quite a success. So yes, it's Pokemon is the best example of a game where you can make any creature your companion.
That's actually a pretty good example, that is, because Pokemon, because you can have 6 Pokemon in total, can't you, in your party? Is that the number what it is?
Yeah, it's you can have more, of course, in your backlog, but it's out of when you're facing other Pokemon or other trainers, you can only have up to 6. And of course, everybody knows that the Pokemon are different types, so then maybe you want to adjust your team based on the opponent's team, or make new strategies and whatnot based on the Pokemon you're working with. Usually you want to have a balanced team that everybody can cover each other's weaknesses. So yes, it makes for a fun experience to have creatures as companions.
Honestly, I think that's just like a really cool... Yeah, Pokemon's a really good example for that, I do agree. For me, I like the fact of you can have... you can choose your companions in certain video games that just allow you to do certain things. Like in The Witcher, you can't really have companions, which is a little bit annoying. I think there are companions at certain points, but they're not like Dragon Age or Skyrim, where you can like have elves or things like that as companions, which is a little bit upsetting. But then again, The Witcher 3 is like very, very... There's reasons for it. There is reasons for it. It's like, whereas Dragon Age is a party camp that you go to every single night, with The Witcher is like fully free roam. There's no pause or stopping locations. It's completely free roam. But yeah, okay. Quick little challenge for you guys. Ready for it?
All right, go for it.
Okay. I'm gonna name some creatures. Okay, you guys have to describe them to me. If you get the description correct, brilliant. If you
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna win this.
Okay, right.
Isn't it the other way around? Shouldn't you describe it and we guess the creature?
Okay, right. May do that after the stream. Right, okay. Here we go. Starting off, I'll start off with Blue Fox. I'll start off nice and easy, and then yeah, we'll go to different areas. Okay. So Blue Fox. Okay, very simple. Starting off, mermaid.
Mermaid. It's half man, half fish.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay.
Usually the upper half of the man and the lower part of the fish. Doing the opposite would be a bit weird.
Yeah, yeah. Could you imagine? It's just a fish walking around with human legs.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if that's considered a mermaid. I don't think so. Usually it's from the torso up of a man or a woman, and
if it's a human top half and a fish bottom half, that's a mermaid. If it's the other way around, it's a get the hell out of there. That thing's gonna get you.
It could be a boss in Elden Ring. It would be quite.
Okay, we don't have underwater bosses, bro.
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Okay. Brilliant. That's great, Blue Fox. Awesome. Right. Moving on to Camezoid now. Okay. Phoenix.
Okay, this should be easier for this. I'm sorry. What? Demons?
Phoenix.
I think giant flaming bird, something like that.
Yeah, that is correct. It's a giant flaming bird. In fact, they turn to dust when they die and they get reborn. I think.
All right. I remember one because I remembered one from the game God of War 2. You have to, I believe, you have to. Yeah, I have to awaken a flaming phoenix in order to reach a certain area.
Okay. Cool. All right. Next, Blue Fox. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. You've got dragon.
Well, it's a bit of a tricky one, because dragons can come in various shapes and forms. It's the most stereotypical dragon, or let's say Western dragon, would be a giant reptile with wings that can spit fire. That's the most, let's say, Western interpretation of a dragon. But it can also be a long snake-looking flying dragon, like the Chinese dragon.
That's very true. Yes.
Or it can be like the Komodo dragon, like the Godzilla kind of big lizard of dragon with all the wings. So these are my three answers.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay. Got that. Okay. Moving to Camezoid. Camezoid. Griffin.
Yeah. Griffin.
Griffin.
Oh, all right. No, okay. Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. Is it? I don't know. Is it some sort of like an ogre, something like this? I don't think it's a flying creature. From the name, it doesn't sound like a flying creature. So that's a start.
It has usually.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Some sort of a bird?
I know this because the griffin is the symbol of my hometown in Italy. That's a bit of an easy one for me. But yes, it's a mix between a lion and an eagle.
Yeah, that'd be spot on. Very good.
Okay, this is the first time that I've ever heard about this. So yeah.
Do you know Harry Potter? The Gryffindor. Yeah, it's.
Okay, this might I don't know about both of you. This might shock you both. So please, no curse words or no bad feelings, please. I'm not a fan of Harry Potter. I haven't watched any movies nor read the books. I'm just not a fan. Not my type of thing. Please, no hate. Excuse me.
Don't stretch it. I mean, I watched the movies like one or twice, but I mean, it's alright. It's not my cup of tea, but.
Okay, so final two, and then we're going to bring this to an end. So the final two. I'm gonna go with Blue Fox. Okay, so an overall challenge now. We'll say whoever gets these correct will be the winner of this miniaturized game we've invented. Okay, so Blue Fox, you have Minotaur.
Minotaur. It's the Minotaur of the labyrinth of Mycocenia in Crete. It's half man, half bull. It's basically a very big buff man that is also that has the head of a bull. That's the Greek interpretation of a minotaur. That's where it comes from.
Okay, very good. And then to finalize, Camazoid, please get this correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Cerberus.
Oh god. Oh my god, man. The problem is that I know it, but I forgot, bro. I heard the name before.
I'm gonna give you a clue. You ready?
Okay.
Hades.
Is it like a sea creature? Because I do remember it being a sea creature. Am I wrong?
Not a
course
sea,
I'm wrong.
not a sea creature. No.
Oh wait, Cerberus. Oh no, I got it. It's Hades' spit, the three-headed dog,
Yes,
right?
it is. Yes,
I'm mistaken it by another.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes.
I remember it now. I'm mistaken it by another creature. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Cerberus is a three-headed dog owned by Hades. And also one of the creatures in Harry Potter, right? The very first movie, but it's not called Cerberus in that one, but it comes from the same line of species. But yeah, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. That's our take on mythical creatures inside video games. What are your favorite creatures? Tell us down in the comments below if you survived this whole entire hour length of us talking. And we'll see you in another... Well, I'll see you in another month's time on a Jump Inside podcast, but I'll see you in another video very soon. And if you do want to check out any of these guys' channel, Blue Fox and Camazoid's link will be in the description of this video. Are you guys working on anything special? I know that Camazoid's doing streaming.
Yeah. Currently, I'm streaming the Elden Ring DLC daily until the day I hopefully manage to beat it. And hopefully next time, gonna probably continue back with the series that I'm currently doing with the suggested boss run. But I'm pushing to do it on the DLC. And hopefully to drop videos as quickly as possible. And to be challenged by the players themselves. You can also be part of the challenge.
Love that, love that. I'll probably do some type of suggestions. And Blue Fox, what are you working on this month?
Yeah, I think this month I usually take them slowly. I usually do smaller videos, reviews, or just kind of empty thoughts videos, nothing too extraordinary. But after the summer, I might bring back a good old franchise of mine, which is every video game set in and then insert country, which a lot of people appreciate. So I might do my research in the summer and do another country or sets of countries, which of course I will not reveal today, but you'll find soon enough.
It's gonna be quite interesting because you've done certain areas, haven't you, so far? And
I've done 4 countries.
Which
so.
one you've done? You've done London, haven't you?
No. Well, it's I'll let you guys find out.
Go to
after the podcast.
Yeah, go to his channel. Go find out stuff. Right. Okay. I will see you guys next time on another Jump Inside video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
A good one.